From the heights of the Himalayan mountains to the shores of the South China Sea, the People's Republic of China claims vast territory. On the 28th of August, Beijing released a new national map illustrating the expansion of these borders, stirring tensions among China's neighboring countries. The Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan, and India, all countries with territorial conflicts with China, have raised objections to the map released by the Chinese Ministry of Natural Resources a few weeks ago. Interestingly, this development followed President Xi Jinping's statement at the recent BRICS summit about how hegemonism is not in China's DNA. Waves of anger have spread among 6 neighboring countries following the publication of the map featuring a 10th dash line, an additional dash to the east of Taiwan, instead of the previous 9 dashes. It's worth noting that the 9 dashes claimed by China were rejected by the United Nations Law of the Sea Tribunal. The new map portrays a U-shaped line underscoring Beijing's claim to authority over almost 90% of the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea, a strategically vital route and a source of many disputes in one of the world's most contested waterways.
We received the news that now the 9-dash line has been extended to the 10-dash line. So these are we have to respond to all of these, and we will. But again, these are operational details that I would prefer not to talk about.
Facilitating more than $3 trillion trade flows annually. The new 10-dash line encompasses the exclusive economic zones of the countries, including Vietnam, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. The map also features Chinese expansion in geographical territories, like the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin and Russian islands of Bolshoi Ussuriski. China published a map with a 10th dash in 2013 as well, but the 10 dash of the latest map is quite similar to a 1948 map of China. With the dash in the eastern section of democratically governed Taiwan, it is plausible that China sees Taiwan as a renegade province subject to reunification. When Jeff Liu, Taiwan's foreign ministry spokesperson, was asked about the publication in a recent press briefing, he said, "No matter how the Chinese government twists its position on Taiwan's sovereignty, it cannot change the objective fact of our country's existence." Moreover, the dashes drawn near Taiwan indicate a desire to assert control over the Japanese islands in the Ryukyu. China has previously claimed Taiwan, Indian territories, and the South China Sea, but now it appears to be asserting claims over Russian and Japanese territories. Before we continue our journey, please consider supporting our team through your appreciation and through Patreon. It is with your support that we can unravel this complex realm. The link is given in the description below. Now coming back to our discussion. The mentioned line also encompasses the entire Spratly Islands, including the Calayan Islands of the Philippines. Disputes between the Philippines and China are not limited to maps.
Stayed true to the rules-based international law, especially the UNCLOS. And that I think puts us on very solid ground in terms of our claims for territorial sovereignty, for maritime territory.
China has constructed artificial islands and intimidated fishermen, vessels, and ships. The current map's publication, arriving just a month after an altercation involving Beijing's Coast Guard and a Filipino vessel in the South China Sea, has reignited the debate over the legitimacy of any dashed line, prompting renewed international support for the 2016 tribunal ruling. The Filipino government had previously challenged the 9th dash line before the Permanent Court of Arbitration, which subsequently invalidated China's sweeping claim. In 2016, the arbitral ruling declared the line legally groundless.
Suffice it to say that we already protested against that. Definitely, we're not in favor of that. We reject that, and we continue to promote a peaceful settlement of disputes in that regard.
The United States has stood alongside the Philippines, asserting that this move directly jeopardizes peace and stability in the region. Both South Korea and Japan have also shown their support for the Philippines in this maritime dispute. The recent incident involving a water cannon targeting a Filipino resupply vessel has garnered global attention. India also backed the Philippines regarding the 2016 ruling on the South China Sea. Foreign ministers from both nations issued a joint statement emphasizing the importance of peacefully settling disputes and adhering to international law.
Mas maraming bansa na susuporta sa stand ng Pilipinas to condemn and to appeal to China not to follow that ridiculous 10-9.
The new map has elicited strong reactions from India. Through diplomatic channels, India has lodged a protest against the 2023 version of China's map, which appears to incorporate Indian territory. A spokesperson from India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a statement on Wednesday rejecting these claims, stating, "Just publishing maps including parts of India doesn't change the ground reality. Our government is clear about our territory. Making baseless claims does not render other people's territories yours." He added that such assertions lack legal standing and only exacerbate boundary issues. The origins of Chinese claims over Indian territory can be traced back historically. China regards Ladakh as part of Western Tibet and Arunachal as part of Southern Tibet. Armed forces from both nations have frequently clashed over areas that China claims. Since 1962, both sides of the Western Himalayas have witnessed escalating tensions, with troops being amassed and conflicts erupting. This map is likely to heighten tensions further along the 3,000-kilometer-long Sino-Indian border. Given the pre-existing strained relations, the scenario seems complex. Chinese expansive territorial claims have covered Taiwanese land too. The U-shaped dash line that paints the Taiwanese mainland and outlying islands as Chinese territory has sparked a vehement reaction from the country. The map appears to be quite similar to China's 1948 map, which could indicate that China still sees Taiwan as its renegade province subject to reunification. In fact, China's Communist Party has always asserted that there is only one China, and Taiwan is a part of it. Taiwan's foreign affairs spokesman detested China's act to assert dominance over most of the South China Sea, including the Taiwan Strait. The People's Republic of China has never ruled Taiwan. This is a fact and a status quo that is generally recognized by the international community, he said. With respect to Taiwan, the timing of the publication is significant because members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are negotiating a code of conduct for the South China Sea. No matter how the Chinese government distorts its claim to Taiwan's sovereignty, it cannot change the objective fact of our country's existence. Other than India, Taiwan, and Philippines, Russia has also rejected the 2023 version of China's standard map. While other countries subjected to Chinese expansion come as no surprise, Russia is an unexpected member on the list. The reason being its alliance with China on most international forums. Nonetheless, the 2023 standard map of China marks some of the Russian territory. The response was not as terse as India, but the country rejected Chinese claims saying that the map is against the bilateral agreement of 2005. The map included Bolshoi Ussuriski in Chinese territory. The countries had resolved the dispute in 2005 after decades of conflicts. Under the deal, the 170 of 50 square kilometers of the disputed territory were made a part of China. The rest of the territory was claimed by Russia. Recently, Russia reiterated this agreement in response to the 10-line map. Maria Zakharova, a spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry, said, "The Russian and Chinese sides adhere to the common position that the border issue between our countries has been finally resolved. Its settlement was marked by the ratification in 2005 of the supplementary agreement on the Russian-Chinese state border on its eastern part, according to which Bolshoi Ussuriski Island was divided between the parties. The delimitation and demarcation of our common border has been completed along its entire length, including in 2008 on Bolshoi Ussuriski Island." She added that the resolution of the dispute was a fruit of decades of efforts from both sides, which was a reflection of the high level of relations between the two countries. The agreement made a significant contribution to the peace and stability in the region. The Chinese Foreign Ministry asked the concerned parties to stay objective and refrain from over-interpreting the issue. Spokesman Wang Wenbin said it was a routine practice in China's exercise of sovereignty. On August 30th, Wenbin held a press briefing to state that China's position in the South China Sea is clear and consistent. Their competent authorities routinely publish standard maps of various types to make these maps available to all sectors of society and raise public awareness regarding the standardized use of maps. Thus, Wenbin expressed a hope that the relevant parties will see it rationally and refrain from the over-interpretation of the situation.
8月28日，中国自然资源部发布了2023年版标准地图，这是中方依法行使主权的例行性做法，希望有关方面客观冷静看待，不要过度解读。
Although the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs has apparently sent a confidential note to the Chinese embassy, Southeast Asian reactions have been subdued publicly. Since the maps do not have any legal weight under the UN conventions, bringing its claims over the South China Sea into conformity with international law remains a challenge for China. The Chinese interlocutors are aware of the inconsistency of China's United Nations Convention on the obligations of the sea law and maximalist interpretation of the nine-dashed line as its territorial enclosure. They seek to reassure foreigners that China claims to extend to islands and other area features within the lines and her vaguely defined historical rights. Although the land and rocks in the South China Sea are now receiving unparalleled international judicial scrutiny, China's mapmakers can now put away their dividers safe in the knowledge that Beijing's new leadership will preserve that ambiguity about the full extent of their South China Sea claims, which the dashed line folds. However, China refuses to acknowledge the UN's arbitral ruling of 2016. International relations experts believe that the recent release of a new map is Beijing's attempt to distract its citizens from the deepening economic troubles. Willy Wolap Lam, a senior fellow at a Washington-based think tank, believes, "The general idea is that the economy and people's livelihood are so bad that Xi Jinping is playing a nationalist card by arousing people's patriotic fervor. Xi has no other weapon in his toolbox." It is interesting to note that the map followed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit Conference in South Africa to discuss the tensions on the Sino-Indian border. Colin Coe, a senior fellow at a Singapore-based Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, is of the opinion that the public is aimed at enforcing Beijing's unyielding position on its perceived sovereignty in those regions. "This is a commonly observed Chinese warfare tactic," he said. This brings us to the end of the video. If you found this video insightful and want to see more, check out some of our previous videos and hit the subscribe button to stay connected.